Here? Probably this.
When we did that test, I just hit the button. When we did that test, because we were like, the audio used to be better. We went back and listened to an episode. Clearly not the SFAT episode. If anybody remembers, like season 1, episode 3, Scar and Toph show with SFAT. You remember that?
What specific aspect of it?
We had a gun run prototype, like microphone capture thing. It was like a prism with a little mic at the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded like we were all underwater, all three of us.
This was
we opened the VOD. This is the
Twitch office. Was this like the gaming room with like? Because eventually we moved
with
to
the
that area
painted
with
background. This is like
purple.
Yeah, no, it was like a It was a. Wasn't it a? What do they call it when you paint something on the wall? Mural. It was like a montage mural kind of thing. The same one with Mike Ross. That
same with Mike
Legendary
Ross.
Studio.
Boba,
the Mango.
the Boba story. Blurb not being relevant.
That room.
Dude, I'm thinking about it. We had a couple backdrops. We were in there for a while. Then we kind of rebooted the show, and we were up on the 9th floor. Like there was a little cubby
with the stone
with the
wall
stones.
behind us. That was when
yeah.
I was really mean to
Kalamazoo.
Keizu.
Which is
It's a brutal episode. Please don't go back and watch it.
It's fine. We've had brutal episodes.
I was feeling in a bad mood.
We did some Scar and Toph show episodes in
Sorry, Keizu. Love you, man. Great player.
Love Keizu.
Great player, great person.
Actually a very funny guy. As I think you came to realize over the years.
He'd roll with my bad attitude, so you get 200
Keizu,
kudos for that.
Dude, if there's one thing I can say about Keizu is a roller. And I don't mean that in a gameplay perspective, although he's known to do that.
Really? He'll get tilted?
No, I meant like literally holding L and pressing left or right on the
he's a roller.
Sometimes. You gotta be your peach.
You gotta be in the game.
I digress. Keizu, boy, just think about my friend Kyle Zhu. Kyle rolls with not the punches, but he just rolls with whatever's going on. He just rolls with it.
He's moving forward into the next moment of life.
I get the sense from Kalamazoo, especially I was a roommate for 2 years, that man he's actually got a very Mango-esque quality in that I think him and Mango share the trait that I wish I had of they never overthink.
Whew.
Never overthink. But the difference is...
It's kind of interesting. It is kind of like we're going through life, you're moving forward moment by moment, but then something happens and you get stuck on it. And even though the rest of the world is kind of moving forward, you're really thinking about that past event. It's like we kind of get stuck.
Like the Barbie movie thing.
That's a side note, but you were telling me. It's a side note. It's just one of those moments where you were listening to somebody, it's like a commentator favorite moment where it's like, dang, this guy does not let it go, and that cracks me up. He kept bringing something up from 2 minutes ago. Everybody else was trying to move him.
And it cracks me up. There's an art to it. There is an art to it. You're good at it. And I think this is something that people love. Whenever
I'm
I see
always
people,
trying to move it. I try to keep it moving, but we do.
Wait. Hang on.
We do callbacks. That's true.
Here's the thing. Let me actually characterize, because I think maybe you don't even realize this about yourself, but I think this is something people really love about you. I think you're right. 85 to 95% of the time, you want to move things along. However, I think there's like a 5 to 15% of the time where there's just like something you want to randomly harp on for way longer than it's due. Let go. But you're very good, and this is why I think people love it when you do it. You're very good at, you kind of, I think, have this innate sense of like, if I do this, people will find it funny. At least I'll find it funny.
At least I will.
And people will find that funny. And so people are down. And I think that for a lot of like aspiring commentators and stuff like this, it's hard for them to find that line. Or people don't realize they're doing it at all.
It's crazy that you're bringing this up as I've been thinking about it. By the way, welcome to the Scar and Toph show. We're in Medias Race. We're actually kind of reminiscing on old Scar and Toph shows.
What are we?
Reminiscing? What word did I say? Did I say a cool word?
We're in Medias Race.
In Medias Race is Latin for in the middle of things. Sometimes movies will open and it's the middle of the action. There's no like setup. It's kind of like a cold open.
Cold open.
There's a name for that, which I learned in high school.
How do you spell Medias?
Medias.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a root word for you liking that, by the way. Karen, my wife, made us old fashions. This is an old fashioned. So
cheers to you, Toph. Cheers to all of you watching. This is kind of a throwback.
Don't drink and drive.
Yes, a lesson we had to learn the hard way.
I know you did. I know you didn't mean that in a funny way, but for some reason I found it funny. Hey, Bobby's back. Welcome back to the community, Bobby. Big balls, not Bobby Scar.
He is back?
Well, his Twitch ban. So he gets to go to locals again. Because Which is brutal. You get banned on Twitch.
We can talk about that. This is a Scar and Toph show, so we can talk about hot topics like this. I keep changing the topic, I know. We can't talk about hot topics like this, but...
I wasn't going to go deep into it. I was just going to say that I don't think you meant it as a joke because it is serious. However... Yeah, I don't know.
And I... Yes. And you were talking about my comedic sense of timing.
Comedic sense of timing.
And how I'll stay stuck on things in a way that you think is funny. Anyway, I was just thinking about how when you make stuff, I think sometimes the best stuff, this is not an original take, people have said this, but the best stuff that you can make is the stuff you wish you could see. And I do think a lot of the time when I was commentating, especially in the past, I had a sense of what other people have done that I thought was funny that I wanted to do. Because I thought that those jokes were good and I wanted to pass them on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's 100% the case.
That's 100% I really wish. So I'm on a kick where I watched old StarCraft 2 tournaments, Tastes and Nartosis. There's actually an amazing playlist which we should put in the comments that anybody can go check out just to listen to
our inspirations.
Maybe like 70 hours of them commentating. It's an insane playlist for like the whole time they were doing. Well, a lot of the time they were doing... Anyway, in one of these casts, Tasteless brought up some of these YouTube videos or clickbait articles that were like, 10 things non-gamers wouldn't understand. And they were just kind of like... They were making fun of that, and it was kind of a recurring theme throughout this like 3 or 4 hour broadcast.
Was it a tournament cast?
Yeah, it was... Oh, absolutely. StarCraft has so much downtime. It's like when we were at tournaments and there would be... 8 minutes between sets. What are we gonna do? I mean, this is before commercials and stuff, right? You remember back in the day where it was just somebody would show up and stream the event. So anyway, they do a lot of that in StarCraft. Anyway, long story short, that cracked me up, and then they let it go for a long time. And then Artosis was just kind of talking about this one drop this Terran was doing in the back of the base, and he was like, you know, it's something that non-gamers wouldn't understand. Blah, blah, blah. It was just a perfect moment to call it back. And I knew it made no sense. It was like, you know, it made no sense, and it was super funny.
But you feel so... If you were there for the first one, you feel so validated, and you feel so good.
It's very rewarding.
You really feel like you're a part of something when that happens. I love this. Dude, oh, man. No, I'm thinking about a really great example of this where... I was watching, you know, Daigo's an amazing streamer. Daigo did this on his stream in Street Fighter 5. There's this like really, really, really awful meaty setup that is just not good at all.
That someone 5 or 6?
Five, yeah, okay. like a Kage thing.
Okay,
Kage's like the evil Ryu character. It's just like garbage meaty setup that it's like I don't want to say it because I'm going to say it wrong but basically it looks like you're trying to jump into the air and combo them, but like the game's combo engine doesn't work that way.
You can't hit them.
You can't hit them, but then your jumping attack that you tried to combo them with ends up kind of putting you at sort of a safe jump timing, and then you can do like a meaty or something, but you're not even plus. You're like not even plus.
Yeah,
and. Someone in Daigo's someone gave him bits or whatever, super chatted him to that's a whole story. Super chatted him to like show him this setup, and he was like, "My friend Tanaka in bronze showed me this setup. Tanaka of bronze."
Yes.
And Daigo's like, "Okay, let's see the Tanaka of bronze setup." And he looked at it, and Daigo's like, "This is fucking stupid." And he was like, "I think your friend Tanaka of bronze can probably become Tanaka of silver." If he changes nothing else about this gameplay,
except just
stops doing the setup,
just stop doing it.
And yeah, I don't know. There was like some stream months later where he like brought it up again, and I just died. I was like, dude, perfect comeback or callback.
Wow, a months long one.
Yeah, sometimes we as do these that, things go.
Sometimes we do that, but it's yeah.
It might have been weeks later. Whatever. It was a while.
An inside joke.
It was fantastic. There's like 3 Street Fighter fans in the comments that know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm actually,
I'm going to show you. Probably saw that video. I'm pretty sure I remember it. I did think it was Street Fighter 6. It was like a bad Ryu setup or something.
Yeah. Street Fighter 5. It might have happened again in Street Fighter 6.
It may have happened again.
Yeah.
But we got on this topic because we were talking about Scar and Toph show.
Talking about Scar and Toph show.
And how this might be the best audio we've had in a long time.
You were talking about the SFAT episode.
We're just using one mic.
Yeah, we... I was kind of going through all the different setups we've had at the Twitch office. We got into the reads. Man, we had a lot of setups. And
Yes, we did.
We were looking into... This is a whole topic, man. We were looking into upgrading our audio.
We want to make this audio better because sometimes I'll go back and listen and be like, I couldn't really hear what Rocky was saying, for example.
That's a good example of that.
I couldn't hear this funny joke I made.
I couldn't hear the funny joke you made.
And that's a crime.
Yeah, that's a crime against humanity. And no, we looked into upgrading our audio setup, and then we compared it to like some audio from some recent episode. It actually like sounded pretty good. So I think what I've realized is we're just not consistent with the audio. We need to figure out how to get good audio and just stick to it, because it feels like it fluctuates right now.
The best audio we've ever had was when Spencer was there.
Early reads.
And we had the headphones on. I think the early reads might be what we went back and watched. And we were like, the lab mics were okay, but they weren't amazing.
Ooh.
But with the headset,
so
is always... Yes, that audio is 200... It sounds like a podcast. It sounds like we use professional equipment. Whereas some of these mics, while they're good, they don't sound like that.
This one's got like a cone of effect.
But I didn't like the aesthetics when we did the reads of like me, you, and Silent Wolf, me, you, and Otto with these big like headsets on. It just didn't look right. But how much of that is me just appreciating the old Excellent Adventures aesthetic and wanting us to faithfully recreate it? I don't know.
I mean, I think there's something there. I think everything's done for a reason.
But aesthetically, when we're sitting and playing, when we're a certain amount far away, I think the headphones look weird. But if we're close enough and it's our torso, like a NFL broadcast or whatever, then this looks kind of appropriate.
It adds an air of almost like credence.
Yeah, we get
some. You guys know what they're talking about.
We get a credence bonus,
right? But our pro gamers.
I'm trying to use like some D&D slang because of
Baldur's Gate.
Sometimes you like get a bonus or a proficiency bonus or.
Is a bonus any different than catching a buff?
A buff can provide a bonus. Why'd you say catching a buff? Is that a thing?
Is that not how they say it?
You can get buffed. I've never caught a buff. I don't know if I've ever caught one, but I've gotten buffed.
By like your homie who's playing a priest or whatever. Paladin?
Maybe catching a buff's a thing, and I'm not enough in the culture to get it. But I've never heard anybody talk about it being caught specifically. It's like other transitive verbs that.
I just thought that's how a cool kid might say it. You know, like a cool knight, warrior.
Yeah, what do I want to be?
Try to catch a buff.
Yeah, like a cool knight warrior. Dude. You could be a fighter. They call it a fighter. That's like a classic warrior. But I like the paladins.
I've heard about paladins.
Because I'm a loser. I don't know why.
What's wrong with paladins?
They're really like straight laced. They're supposed to be really straight. They have to follow a code, and they can't deviate from it.
It's hard to be straight laced.
And I've never played like the role playing aspect of D&D, which I think would be the hardest. I think improv is hard, and like role play, it feels kind of awkward to me.
Yeah.
But if I could do it, if you're a paladin, sometimes you can annoy all your homies because they want to do something like smart and easy, like steal something, and I would have to be the guy who's like, "Oh no, we can't do that."
Are you expected to do that if you're the paladin of the party?
I don't know. I guess there's an honor system.
I really want to, dude. It's on my bucket list.
Playing a D&D. I will say, I'm going to invite you if we do one. Yeah. I have some interest in doing one.
Yeah, I have some interest in doing one. I might be the one that moves it forward.
If any of our patrons want to do a D&D session and you guys know what you're doing, please give us a call. I don't know how to... Because if you want to do it, you need like a dungeon master and they need to know all the rules. That's what's great about Melee is that there's one system that is the dungeon master that knows all the rules.
Yeah,
the game. I don't need to know anything.
That's a good point. Yeah, I've honestly, I don't think I've ever played a game.
How important it is if you're the DM. You're like actually the code of the system.
Yeah,
it's just a lot. That's a lot, man. I don't really feel like doing that.
That's a lot. That's true. We're yeah, it's interesting. I always think about like, and some sports have like referees and stuff. There's no referee with Melee. It's just
only in these rare cases where we invented rules. Whenever you invent a rule, you need to invent a referee to enforce it.
I got
like the ledge grab limit.
I got a topic for you. I've actually been thinking a lot about this sort of thing, like the context of rules within a game, and like even the things that we take for granted. For example, I'm playing a lot of chess lately.
Yes.
Chess is a game. Melee is a game where a game can have 2 results, win or lose.
That's right.
Chess is a 3-result game. You can draw.
Yes.
Sometimes I queue on the ladder and
technically you could have a tie in Melee, but it's very rare.
Oh, when it goes to sudden death. Even then, the game, the DM that is the game wants to enforce a victory.
Yes, and they force you into it. They do force you. Is there no contest? There's LRA start.
LRA start on the home run contest. So I was thinking about it because people complain about it, and I was sort of talking to I was talking to a buddy of mine about like how good different games are, and they were saying like the one thing that kind of sucks about chess is aren't there a lot of draws, especially at the high level. I was like, that's true.
Is it true?
It is. As
like a third of games, 20% of games.
I think at the top level, it's like probably at least half. At the top level,
that's a lot.
Because
that's a lot.
Because people are playing much closer to like the perfection.
Right.
And people might not take
not getting
risks.
A decisive advantage in the course of a game is not. It's not crazy.
Exactly. At my level.
Not as many draws.
Not as many draws.
Okay. Because there's more space for outplaying.
Exactly. There's more space for outplaying.
People aren't that god tier.
And I was kind of actually saying, as a spectator, I totally get this, and I understand why you would feel that way. And I'm curious what you think, because I felt like, as a player, I actually don't care that much. Because sometimes I play a game with somebody. You've had this in Melee, I'm sure, where it's just like you're just playing a game, could be on Slippery or whatever, and you're just like, dude, me and my opponent. We're both just we're on fire right now. Like, this is just a good
great.
game.
Yeah.
And in a way, sometimes like when you have those games, I almost feel like. So Fiction, I remember this was a great tweet. I think Fiction made it. He was talking about how like you got to get to a state in Melee where you never want the game to end. You don't want because this is where spaghetti comes in because you're playing a term. You're like, I just want to hit him. I want to get it over with. And he was like, if you want to get to the best neutral you're ever going to play, you got to play like you don't want the game to end. And it's very paradoxical. And so sometimes I'm like playing Melee, man. I'm playing like a amazing game or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's a shame. In a weird way, it's like, it's a shame that there has to be a victor and a loser. And then I've played chess games where it's a draw, and I've clicked on the engine thing, and it says you both played 95% accuracy, and it's just like you both played clean.
Yeah.
And that's like, for me, the way I am, that's kind of weirdly satisfying. I didn't win, but like
it's a matter of perspective, in my opinion. What you're talking about. There's two players, they're facing each other, and there's the audience who's looking at it from the outside. Each of the players, they appreciate all the effort they've put in to play as well as they're playing, and they can also appreciate whatever it is that your partner in play, whoever your opponent, whatever they're doing to get around your stuff and also do good stuff that you're kind of getting around, but then they're covering it. You get to appreciate all that from your perspective, but us as the viewers,
right?
I don't know all the work you've done to be able to do this or that. I don't even know what mix-ups are really going on. And even as a commentator, a great commentator can see those things and appreciate it, and then the audience gets to enjoy a tie. But more often than not, if it's a tie and you don't really know what's going on, but these guys are hitting each other and dodging and this and that, but you don't really, I don't know if this is, it kind of looks clean, it looks good, but I want to know who's winning.
That's true.
And there's no answer if there's a tie.
People want that answer, I think. People want the tension.
I want to know who's winning.
You want the tension, but then you want it broken.
Or I want someone to explain to me how much of a tightrope they're on right now and what it would look like for. I need it to get explained for me to enjoy it.
I will say I think the best chess, because I've watched some chess tournament footage, and I think the best commentators are really good at that. Like they're very good at.
Of course,
and if a single game is a draw, that doesn't the match as a whole isn't going to be a draw. So they're very good at zooming out and taking it into that wider narrative. They pull a scar there.
You know what I was thinking? Okay, this is a hot topic in Melee for me.
Hit me,
man. I don't want to talk about it right now. If we were streaming, I probably would.
Really?
Okay, somebody.
We can cut it out if you don't want to. We can cut it out of the video.
Where do I jump into the story?
If you see this, that means we didn't cut it out.
Where do I jump into the story? Okay, there's two places I could jump in. One place is we separately watched the Ludwig First to 10 finals thing.
Cody Zane.
And I know there were certain points where one of the commentators, whoever it was, would just say, like, whenever they tied it, I believe it was, 6-6, 5-5? There was a point later into the set where they tied. Spoilers, apologies. But you should watch it.
You should watch it.
It was dope. Where somebody chimed in and said, okay, well, now it's a first to 4. Now it's a best of 7.
Yeah, I remember that.
I feel like if you just get somebody to to zoom out and say those things once a game, then you don't need to invite me anywhere. That's all that I feel like I do these days.
Well, that's not true.
Anyway, that's something I do a lot. I zoom out and I'm just like, all right, well, now it's going to be this is the last game. This is the last shot. Like, I just want to say, because you could not notice it. There have been sets where I've been watching them and it's like, damn, this is a good set. And then it's like, wait, it's over?
I remember a time...
That person won? That we just saw the whole thing?
I remember a time when Mewtwo King won the tournament. And didn't know he won the fucking...
Oh, yeah. Talk about not wanting it to end, right? I mean, he probably was... Maybe he was in that mind state.
Maybe he was in that mind state.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
I can tell you someone who I think was in that mind state, dude. I watched a set recently of J Mook. Dude, it was so sick. Dude, it was the coldest. It was the coldest shit I've ever seen. I think it might have been at this tournament, Arkham Melee. I think. Some of the YouTube comments you're going to tell me. J Mook, like, beat somebody's ass in what I think was game 5. I mean, he assassinated this fool.
Ooh. And J Mook assassinated.
And then you could tell from his body language and his gaze, and I think the sip of water that he took and everything came together to tell you this guy doesn't realize he won the set.
I'm pretty sure I know that clip.
They were sitting across from each other on opposite TVs.
It was Genesis. It was Genesis.
Genesis.
I think it was.
Jim was like, "I'm gonna win the next game too. I could keep going." Like that guy was not thinking. He was in the moment. He was living in the moment. He was present. I have a take about being not a take. I saw something on really good thing on Twitter this morning, in the Visa. Yes. You see that sphere about the concept of being present that I really liked.
What was it?
Okay, first of all, do you know what a saccade is? I think it's pronounced saccade. Saccades.
No, I have no idea what you're saying.
When your eyes move, and this is going to tie into the presentness thing.
I believe I'm about
to tell you, which you're going to really like this. When your eyes move, you notice you can't move them continually. I can't drag my eyes smoothly from left to right. I can move my head, but like when your eyes move, it's like boop, boop, boop. Your eyes kind of jump around. They teleport, kind of. Like you can't just.
So it's like the flick of an eye. The saying of.
Exactly. Is that a saccade? I think it's SACCADE.
To catch some buffs. Flicking some eyes.
Catch some buffs, dude. Hang on. Look, saccade definition. I looked it up this morning. Saccade, a rapid movement of the eye between fixation.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, it's a saccade. Flick of the eye.
Yep. And this is how the eye moves. Like you can try moving your eyes. That's how they move.
I'm trying it right now.
The funny thing is, I guess some scientists, whatever biologists, looked at it and they realized that the eyes are actually moving too fast when the eyes move all the time. Every time they move too fast for them to actually be capturing vision between the starting point and the end point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They move that fast. However, when we move our eyes, it doesn't look like we lost vision or everything went super blurry every time. It doesn't look that way at all. It turns out that I think neurologists and whatever they've come to the realization that the brain is actually using its own memory to hack itself, and it fills in your short-term memory. It fills in with what it knows about the environment from what the eye already captured. It fills in that small gap where the eyes are recalibrating when it moves.
Yeah,
the brain is it feels like something a software engineer. It feels like
for sure. It's like an AI kind of thing. It's like Is it predictive or is it just pulling from some memory?
It's like I have this data here. And then there's a gap, and then I have this data here, and I really need to construct data in this gap between them. I know I'll just take the average of this and this, and I'll plot a line between the two of them, and that's how a software engineer would solve this problem. The brain is doing that.
Yeah,
which is insanity.
Kind of.
It's hacking. It's using the memory it has to hack itself, which is crazy. So anyway, this really cool sort of concept I saw this morning on Twitter was like when like Zen Buddhists talk about like the concept of being present, what they're really talking about, it's kind of like eye movement. Like there are these gaps where we're just going about our daily life. Maybe we're scrolling YouTube or Twitter or some bullshit.
Sure.
Wherever it may be, but you're not always present. And every time you kind of remind yourself like, oh, I need to be present. I know what's going on right now. You're there. But there are these gaps.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about the concept of enlightenment or being Zen, I think that is a person, because I remember we were talking a lot about kind of Zen stuff a couple of years ago. That's continuous presentness.
Sure, yeah.
versus I'm not very present. I think I am for a lot of the day probably, and I think for
don't
me,
we call that autopilot in Melee?
Exactly.
You're either sitting and autopiloting, which we do a ton of pretty much all of us.
Exactly.
If you're watching the reason you're never on autopilot when you're playing Melee, you could type that in the comments, and I will barely believe you. I'll think you just wanted some upvotes. I know you all know what it's like to play on autopilot, and it's hard to be there. I think in Melee in particular, sometimes I try to be there, but then I'm actually thinking about things that are not connected to what I'm seeing. Like, did I remember that tech that just happened? But you're not even really supposed to do that. You're supposed to be like...
Dude, I love that you're talking to Melee. I saw a great...
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to know how much to have your analytical... consciousness on when you're actually... should you do it at all? I'm not sure. Maybe between games? I'm not really sure.
Between games is good.
I'm not really sure. But yes...
There's an amazing...
That's a good analogy.
Amazing phrase. I got to give credit to Charles Thorin from the old community for this, for Smash Ultimate, because he coined this phrase, but I really like it. And he talks about how the top players have a better refresh rate. Like a monitor. Like a monitor's refresh rate.
I don't know how that works.
The top players are looking... I feel like
I'm a terrible gamer, Toph.
So I'll give you a great example. As a fellow terrible gamer.
Okay.
I feel like sometimes when I'm playing Melee poorly, I'm making a decision, and then I feel like for the next... You know who's terrible at this? The worst at this?
You told me DrugFox gave you... You've told some of the people, so if they paid attention 2 years ago, DrugFox told Toph one time that if he makes a mistake, he'll kind of get stuck on it.
Exactly.
And the next minute of his play is worse after that mistake. Even if DrugFox could see that he plays well before and after, that one mistake kind of...
I used to really and I do think this is true. I think this is still true, Blad, I'm really sorry, Blur. But I think Blur, I've said on commentary many times, Blur is the sort of player that looks incredible. He is like what I have or had, whatever, 100-fold. Blur, you can take 5-second slices of his gameplay, and he looks like the most beautiful Marth to ever do it. But when you zoom out and you kind of look at a broader context, he is like not really adapting to what's actually happening on the screen. To borrow DrugFox terminology, he's not looking at the screen. So like refresh rate is this concept of like how quickly are you actually acclimating to what's happening in front of you?
Yeah.
How many times a second are you doing that? Cody and Jmook are like phenomenal at it. In fact, when me and Brandon were commentating Jmook's breakout Genesis run, that was something that me and Brandon both kind of independently observed about Jmook. Brandon said the exact same thing using different words, but he basically said like, dude, this motherfucker is so good at like updating his latest model of what's going on right now.
I can't do that.
As a player, you mean? It's really hard.
I've never been one to do that. I've been one to get not my autopilot, but my mechanics, my tech, as clean as I can, and then hope that I get hits and execute.
I'm like that.
But it's hard for me to be like, oh, this person's doing X, so I need to respond with Y. I tried to come up with a game plan that could beat everything. Could I beat a campy Falco? Could it beat an aggressive Falco? Could it beat an up tilt Falco?
Yeah.
If my one game plan can't beat all three of them, then I'm going to lose.
Right.
That's kind of... And I don't need a refresh rate for that.
Bro, you know who's so sick at... Yeah, that I think I really resonate with that as a player. At least I resonate with having had that like as a flaw in my gameplay for a long time. And I think that, like, as a Melee player, players like that and players like me and you have high highs and low lows.
Yes.
Because when you're hitting your stuff or when you're, when you kind of, if you make a preemptive decision, this is how this interaction is going to go, you can get some filthy clips.
Absolutely.
Where your hit confirms look unreal. Your hit confirms look miraculous because they aren't hit confirms. Because you decided it 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Dude, you know which Street Fighter player...
Maybe I can react to certain things that are actually reactable in Melee. Like, there's certain times in Melee where you get a hit and you can cover either DI if they DI in or away. Like, I'm thinking about a knee. If I get a nice knee at a nice percent, a nice height, I can... But I actually have to react. I can't pre-decide. But anyway, yeah, I think that was only possible... This is actually giving me a heck of thoughts. Because there's a type of person who on Reddit... This is me, 100%, 20 years ago.
Okay.
I would be like, hey, what do I do in this situation? And somebody like Mango would give me an answer that's like maybe way zoomed out. Or maybe Cactuar would have told me, well, here's something you could try. And then I would be like, yeah, but if I do that, they could just do this. And it loses. That's me trying to come up with one game plan that will beat everything. that's actually not necessarily possible in a good game, and I do think at a certain point that was not possible in Melee anymore.
It makes sense.
The metagame was less mature, so the options that people didn't have such good answers to everyday situations.
You know, it always
now everybody's got answers where I can't have one answer to beat
everything. It always struck me as funny that
that was my limit, Toph.
You really latched on to, like, I mean, and rightfully so. You became such a big fan of Wizard's playstyle.
Love Wizard.
And hearing that about your kind of identity as a player and kind of the struggles you went through, it makes total sense to me that you would somebody like that. Because Wizzy, if there's one guy that's doing that, it's Wizzy.
Yeah.
Like, and
his refresh rate's probably really good. And he has a lot of situations really mapped out. But at a broad scale, when I watch his gameplay, it looks like he's got a plan, and that plan is going to win no matter what
you do.
No matter what you do against it, unless you really just play amazing.
Dude, don't
play amazing, then you can shut him down.
Don't you feel like this is a unique aspect of Melee amongst the fighting game genre? Because I feel, okay, so for example, Street Fighter, and I was actually talking to Drug Fox about this at this Evo, because he was there for Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter, is the kind of game, imagine it's a tournament set, and imagine I knock you down.
Yeah.
Or you knock me down, game 3 last round, and I DP.
Yeah. Street Fighter forces
and you lose.
This is important. I see what you're saying. It's much more refresh rate. It's mandatory. You can't not remember what somebody's tendencies are. And you definitely can't have a game plan that's going to beat everything. Because there's a fundamental mix-up where you could just lose. There's no...
And Melee has those, don't get me wrong. There are places in Melee where it's like, okay, is the Fox does a Firefox. Is he going that way or is he going towards the ledge?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like kind of a raw 50-50. Melee does have those, but they're kind of more hidden. Like, I feel like in traditional fighters, they're a little more obvious. It's obvious that there's a mix-up. It's obvious that it's 33-33-33 or 50-50 or what have you.
Yeah. I think if we really dug into it, we could figure out what this exactly is. I do know in Melee, there's situations where I can put a hitbox in a, quote, meaty situation where somebody is knocked down or whatever. Mm-hmm. If I execute it well enough, I'll never get hit by a get-up attack, or I'll be spaced out of the way. There's a way that I could put pressure on and be not at all vulnerable, and it can happen a lot. It is kind of like a safe jump. Safe jumps are like these particular setups, but yeah, I mean, you have to really commit when you do a meteor, for example, like to do a meteor.
Yeah.
You have to really commit. If I have a hitbox out when you're waking up, I will get hit by your wake up ultra. I will get hit by your wake up DP. There's nothing I can do. I made a decision to put on this offensive pressure, but it's not.
It's more.
It's not fully safe. It's not fully safe. And in Melee, I think if you're better than your opponent, you can play in a way that's more or less fully safe and win.
Yeah,
it's not really possible in Street Fighter, in my experience. People are just hecka good. Well, yeah, actually, if I play Ricky. I played Ricky recently. It's like there's nothing I could do. I just got destroyed.
Wow.
I don't even think that I had many, like, I don't know. She's really, really, really good.
Yeah. She's really good.
So I guess when you get to a certain level in Street Fighter, you could also play so well that, but I don't know. It feels different. It feels very different.
I mean, reads are a skill, as we, proudly.
Sometimes it's a meta read. I'm a meta reader, Toph.
Melee's got a lot of that.
I like to read the whole meta. If there's a tendency that everybody has, like to roll in this particular spot, then I want to cover that. But I'm not necessarily adjusting to who the player in front of me is.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like in Street Fighter, people adjust it.
You have to be paying attention to that Street
Fighter player who you're playing against at that moment.
That is a super duper good point. I feel like there's something Leffen talks about a good bit, actually, which is pertinent because obviously he's probably the person that's the most invested in both Melee and traditional fighters. And he actually, has the take that I think is really, first of all, really shows his, proclivity for fighting games. But also, I feel like 2012, 2013, Leffen might not have said this. Maybe he would have, I don't know. But he basically said, like, Melee players need to realize that Melee is a fighting game. And Melee players, because of the game engine and because you can play at such a, like you said, you can play a style that really does not take on risk, and you're trying to do everything, you reaction tech chase, and if you drop it kind of thing, right? Go for it. And he was kind of saying that, like, Melee still at its core is a fighting game. You still have to make reads. You still win by making reads, and like people would get better overall if they realize that. So yeah, I don't
probably
know
true.
That kind of shows his like.
It's probably true.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's really smart. I'll always remember my man Joe Clifford. Remember Joe Clifford?
That could have a lot to do with
Joe
like
Replicate.
Yeah, tell me about Joe Replicate.
I just remember he said on Facebook like 2012. First of all, I love that guy. He's like 6'6" and the sweetest human being I've ever met. Jacked. And he said
it was great to have. I was lucky enough to be in NorCal at the same time he was in NorCal, so I had some good time. We had some good time.
Yeah, same. We're good buddies. Worked out a couple times. Anyway, Replicate once. I remember he just posted on Facebook like he had a deep realization, and he said, "Man, being able to make reads is sick, because if you can't do it, then you have to have inhuman reaction time." And I was like, I'd never seen that frame. It sounds obvious, but I'd never seen that framing before. A lot of Melee players at the time, and I think still, would say having great reactions is sick.
Yeah.
Because then then you'd have to make great reads. Your reads have to be correct. And he was saying having great reads is sick because otherwise you have to have great reactions. And I was like, that's the opposite.
An interesting flip.
That is an
interesting reframe.
And that's kind of what Leffen's.
And is it a skill that you can improve your reads? I think yes, and a lot of it has to do with this refresh rate concept, which I never developed.
It's all tied into each other, yeah.
I'm just going to say I never developed that, and I never wanted to. I insisted on not having a refresh rate based, I don't need to pay attention to this specific player against me play style.
Right.
I wanted to have a game plan that's going to beat them unless they're better than me. And
right.
Let's run it. Let's see what happens.
Right.
Hopefully I execute well. If I don't, then I'm really upset.
There are a gazillion ways to play Melee.
But I think what I'm hearing right now is that this refresh rate concept of, trying, but that has to do with presence. Can you be present enough to actually take in some useful information about your opponent and use it in a constructive way? Dude, what are you looking for? Now, you might not know what you're looking for. You might not have the skill to look for what you're thinking about looking for. Like I'm thinking about when I down throw you, what way do you tech?
Yeah.
And then I notice it, but then I immediately forget it. Well,
I used to remember Armada and Mango were like two of the first two, which makes a lot of sense given they were the best. And they would talk about this concept and they would say, I don't remember these conversations. It was like 2013, 2014. They'd say like, and Mango would say it too. At the time, I didn't really feel like I fully got it, but Mango would say Melee's like it's all reactions, and Armada would say the same thing, and I was like, okay, from Armada I get that, I get that Armada's trying reactions, right. I was like, what about Mango? And I think now looking back, I think this is what he was talking about. I think he was talking about the concept of like just actually seeing, and I will say,
well, don't you usually call that adaptation?
But adaptation, I think adaptation is this people have this bias when they hear the word adaptation, they think about adapting to the opponent, not adapting to the thing that's happening in front of them right now. They think of it more medium-term, long-term, not short-term.
Okay.
So
they think about it more like hugs, multi-tournament conditioning.
Exactly. And I will say this, like,
MTC.
Dude, Mango, when you were trying to edgeguard him, like, I remember the last time I played Mango, and I was like, dude, he's so hard to edgeguard. And if you, like, watch his VODs, or, like, even watch, you could, like, even just think about what just happened, he doesn't do like, he's not doing mid-shortens like Aklo.
No.
He's got some angles that are like pretty sick, but like it's not really the micro minutia of his recoveries that make them good. It's just that I feel like if I go off stage to edgeguard Mango, for example, he will see and recognize that I'm going off stage faster than anybody else from like almost like my character's body language.
Yeah.
He'll react to me dashing forward like, oh, I'm going to go for a dash full jump off stage. And he'll like lean back to where now if I want to shine spike him, I have to double jump to shine spike him. And then there's a lot more risk. So now he might side B or drop low and up B. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's waiting until the last possible moment, the last possible frame to make the decision, pull the trigger on what.
Which means his eyes are on your character the whole time. Which in itself is a skill that I know many players listening are thinking about. Like, oh man, I look at my character a lot.
Oh god.
I look at my character a lot, man.
When was the last time you played Mango? Head to head.
It must have been on stream at some point, like maybe a year ago.
It could be friendlies. I don't know. Oh yeah, like friendlies. What does it feel like when you play him? Because I have like so much I could talk about playing that full.
Oh man, no. What did it feel like when I played him?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Like, we were like talking and playing. What's he not good at, man? I don't know. If people, You could ask me also, like, what does it feel like playing Cliche? Cliche is not as good as Mango, but he messes me up, man. I can't move.
I love that dude.
I hate that I had to play him so many times. I had to play him in a Wednesday night fights or whatever it was called.
Oh, I played him a bunch too, yeah.
I had to play him. I think he double eliminated me in one of those. I had to play him on the reads one time. It's like, oh, man, are you serious?
He's good. He's good. I got one win on him, but I think he's up for sure. He's up for sure. No, I feel that. But I think Cliche is, very different from Mango. Well, I think Mango's different from most players. There was some question on something recently. It was like some kind of content thing, and it was like answering. It was like, quick little takes on. I don't remember what the exact context was. Anyway, one of the questions that came up that people had to answer was like, who's the most unique Melee player?
Yeah.
Just like a gun to your head, who's the most unique Melee player? And it was like, objectively speaking, it's Mango, right? Like playstyle wise, it's just obviously Mango. Like I think Nun's got an argument. Ooh. Like Nun's up there for sure, but Nun's like up there. With Mango, it's all his characters. It's not just like the Falcon or whatever. It's just like the way I think his approach to the game. Like it's obviously Mango.
He's the most unique player in the top.
Certainly
the person who we see in finals all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you could say Amsa. Nobody else is playing Yoshi.
But I thought I thought about Amsa, but it was like, God, what was this? What's this Golden Guardian?
Depends on how you define unique content.
Well, but the thing is, I actually thought about Amsa, but then I realized Amsa's a lot more similar to the other Yoshis. There just aren't that many Yoshis. But if I look at the other Yoshis, they kind of play like Amsa.
Well, because they're copying Amsa.
That's true.
They're copying Amsa because he invented it.
That's true. But something to be said for the fact that I think you can try to copy Mango and you'll fall flat on your face. I think nobody can even come close. And he's playing a character. He's playing Fox and Falco, the two most common characters.
Yes.
So I think there's something to be said for playing the two most common characters, and nobody looks like you. That's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who looks like Mango?
That's something.
Joey had a fucking good day, but not Joey. Even Joey, not really. Joey's just Joey.
Mango rarely looks like Joey.
Mango rarely looks like Joey. That's true.
There's some Joey clips, man. You know that these guys are doing a podcast. Are you listening to any of those? We gotta check those out.
Yeah, those are tight. Those are tight. I'm really liking this era of like Mango. I remember I was in an Uber with Mango in Canada last year. I remember we were talking about this, and he was talking a little bit about just kind of being more of a content guy, like kind of obviously he streams a bunch. I think it's really hard to like devote some mind share to like doing weird, different, interesting forms of content if you're streaming 8 hours a day. But Mango's kind of getting into that stuff, and it's kind of dope because obviously the dude's super funny. He's got a lot to say.
We got to go on that show.
Dude, we got to go on that show.
On a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, dude.
We got to do it.
I got to shout out Joey, because I know beer's kind of part of their thing. Dude, the first craft beer.
Not like us. We got these old fashions.
But
we just drank some coffee.
The first craft beer I ever drank, actually, Joey gave me. First one I ever had, like the first drink that wasn't like a fucking... The context was I went to Joey's house to play Melee like 20 years ago. Not 20, like 12. And I had a Guinness earlier in that day or afternoon. And I told Joey, like, yeah, Guinness is pretty good. I know you're like a beer guy. And he's like, you like Guinness? Wait till you try this stuff. And he gave me some Stone Brewery something. And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I kind of get it. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah. It had a cool design on the bottle. So, I remember that. I don't think Joey even remembers that, but,
I bet he does. We'll talk to him about it on a Tuesday.
We'll talk to him about it on a Tuesday.
I think we should take a quick break, Toph.
I'm down.
When we come back, I want to talk about what are we doing next year. Yeah. I also want to say happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thanks very much for watching. Do you remember the Scar and Toph show? It happened long ago.
Maybe it'll happen again.
I'm enjoying myself, sitting here enjoying a little drinkski.
A little drinkski, Lewinsky.
A little bit of quality time with you all.
Did I ever tell you? I'm going to save that. I'm going to start the next episode with the story.
For next time.
We're
just going to take a super quick break.